welcome back everyone, and in today's video I'm going to cover the other new hero on the banner, which is Archon of the Moon. So before I even start on the unit, I just want to give my verdict on this hero. I personally think he's a very fun hero and he has his limitations, but for anyone that is like thinking whether you want to build him or not, especially if you only put like 0 or 1 copy of Archon, I would actually recommend you to not build him because of the limitations that I mentioned earlier, and especially if you are on a budget, because upcoming banners are going to feature quite a lot of like strong meta units. So if you don't really have the space to shard him to build the hero, then I will actually just recommend you to skip it actually. So I'll cover what his limitations are towards the end of the video after I finish everything else. So without further ado, let's start with his talent first. Twin Moons of the Star Ocean. All stats excluding HP increase by 60% when in water. This goes up to 25% at 6 stars. And now this is the main gimmick of this hero. If the displaced effect is triggered for the enemy this turn, then this unit can take 1 additional action and gains. This unit regards its current terrain as water and mobility +2, last 2 turns. And the cooldown is 3 turns now. It goes down to 2 turns at 6 star. So this displacement effect is mainly how this hero operates. So you can see his 3C, his initial, it starts in Moonphase pool, and it is a physical damage single target AoE that is basically chain hook. For those who are familiar with what Lester and Pierre have, the R units, it's basically chain hook, but it has lesser range, but it gives a undispellable -2 mobility debuff. And after you use this skill, it converts into Moonrise Wave, which is an attack that deals 1.5 times better damage, and hero damage increases by 40% when he's in water. And after battle, the unit restores HP equals to 30% of the damage dealt and causes the target to regard its current terrain as water. Cannot be dispelled. Last 2 turns. And then after you use the attack, it turns back into Moonphase pool, which is the hook. So right now, the skills that you see right here is basically his standard set, his bread and butter. Because Tidal Surge is just his mobility, and Heart of the Twin Moons is his passive revive. It revives you with 10% HP normally, and it will revive you at 60% HP if it is in water. And well, this can only trigger once per battle, it's obvious stuff. So generally, you won't have any reason to not run these 3 skills. I mean, personally, I've been theory crafting with like something like this. If you, let's say you want to kill a revive unit such as Elwyn or something, because the key thing to note here is that his talent procs via displacement effect. It's not bound to the 3C. So here he actually has 3 displacement skills. So this one, Gravity Repulse. It attacks a single enemy in a straight line, dealing 1.4 times damage. It has 2 blocks range, so it's like air slash, but you can only target it in a straight line, not diagonally. And for every 1 block move before the battle, damage dealt is increased by 5% up to 15%. If the attack is not guarded against, then it also applies the displacement effect, and it pushes the target back 2 blocks. This is basically like Finger Gun from Toguro, for those who are familiar with that. It's pretty much exactly the same thing, except the modifiers are slightly different. And well, this Aqua Blast. Aqua Blast is Aqua Blast, 2 times damage in water. So the way this works is that first you use the Gravity Repulse to hit the revive unit, and then they revive, but they get displaced. So you get your egg again, and then you finish them off with your next attack. So you drop the revive for this, but personally, I think if you are fighting an aggressive matchup, or you really need a Elwyn solution. Well, I say Elwyn solution, technically it can kill most revive units, but Elwyn is the one that tends to be in your face. You probably can't reach a Lucretia with this kind of skill set. But this may be just like a shower idea, just a bit of theory crafting. Most of the time you will just stick to this, the regular one. And I might as well cover this one. It's a common skill, Backbreaker, and the displacement is special in a way that it's a melee attack, and then it moves the enemy behind you, so it flips him around. So, you know, if you feel like you don't need the passive for whatever reason, you could bring something like this just for an extra attack. But, you know, revive is revive, but it's a passive. So if you were fighting things like Elwyn, Wet Ham when you don't have Rosen or any healer for that matter, you know, you think the revive is useless, you can just bring Backbreaker. But yeah, that basically covers it for his skills. There's nothing much here actually. So for his class, we will be in the Archon class. Gonna bring up the Wikigrisser class page here. So you can see Sea Lord, Vindicator, and Archon. They are both aquatic classes, and Archon has higher HP. They both have the same attack. Sea Lord Vindicator has higher FDef and skill, but they are very irrelevant. So we'll just take the higher HP of Archon. And you can see, yeah, basically my arena stones like this. So usually when I build my heroes, nowadays I only build them two ways. It is either attack HP skill for assassin or like high crit rate DPS kind of units, then the arena stone will be attack HP crit, then crit percent and crit damage percent. So if you're not running that, then usually it will be attack HP defense followed by double suffered minus crit. So nowadays this is the only way I build my units. Of course there are going to be exceptions, but you know, this is a good rule of thumb, I think. Like, if you don't make use of the skill, you just put defense and you play for more defense. You know, you put minus suffered crit so that maybe you can tank some random hit, who knows. Because you can see here, his base skill 106. Yeah, this guy's not really critting, plus his base crit rate. So, okay, now we can move on to soldiers. So, soldiers, you will usually prioritize 3 main troops. The Glacial Elemental, which is a new unit from this month as well. And you have Lizardman, and then you have State Guards. So usually you will bring the aquatic troops. Lizardman is the physical aquatic troop. Attack increases by 45%, base attack 742. Glacial Elemental has slightly less base attack and slightly less attack percentage. It's 40% here, but it does magic damage. So you'll bring Lizardman into things that bring troops that are more on the MDef side, and you'll bring the Glacial Elemental for units that will bring physically defensive troops. So State Guards is mostly here just to, you know, tank like stuff like Helena. I'm actually not even sure if State Guards can tank Helena, probably, but it definitely can't tank Elwyn. It will definitely tank like Werner Dime, the motorbike. Not sure if he's relevant anymore. But yeah, the Lancer Troop option is here. But I think 95% of the time you just stick to Lizardman or Glacial. Because for obvious reason, he's an aquatic unit. And this guy has pretty high attack in water. So yeah, that's that. And here his equipment is very standard as well. You know, regular flyer gear. The Ragnarok Last Rites can't really run away from these two. Then Flower Boon Bonnet for his helmet, because it's a multiple act again unit, so, and especially when you revive outside of water at 10%, if for some reason you are able to move next, you can just like Tidal Surge, heal one time with Boon Bonnet, and then you enter and you heal again, suddenly you back up to half HP. So the utility of Boon Bonnet on act again heroes is the usual one. And Apex Boots is a no-brainer because this hero needs the mobility. His base mobility is 3 as an aquatic, so he needs all the help he can get. And as for alternate gear, that actually isn't really much. Like, alternate gear is really just like if you don't have this set. But I think, okay, for the weapon you can, okay, this is a forged screen, my bad. I think Scarlet Reaper is actually okay on him, because if you hook the unit you want to kill directly, they are gonna take damage from this thing first. So in that case, you don't actually need the Ragnarok fixed damage to break their 100% HP effects. It will already be broken, and then you will get bonus damage from the Scarlet Reaper effect. when enemy HP is less than 100%, damage dealt is increased by 5%. But the problem with that is sometimes you don't want to hook the target. Sometimes you want to hook the tank itself so that it opens up the rest of your team to follow up as well. So if you do that, then you won't have the fixed damage to hit whatever you want to kill. Like, you don't need fixed damage to kill everything, but some things you will definitely need it. So yeah, I think Skyrim is okay, but it makes the hero a little bit more one-dimensional, I would say. Then, Last Rites. Last Rites, there's really no replacement for this item. The second best you can go for is really just Azure Legend, but it's not really the same thing. And if you don't have Flower Boon Bonnet, I guess you would just use a King's Crown. But in the current meta, I find King's Crown actually slightly harder to use. Like, you won't really be near your teammates that much. You tend to spread out a lot more. And yeah, I just don't think the utility is comparable. Doomsday Herald, you won't really make use of the heal block effect, so I think, well, if you don't have Boon Bonnet, you just stick with King's Crown. And if you don't have Apex Boots, well, any generic attack accessory will do, but you know, +1 mobility is kind of irreplaceable, so you know, if you don't even have those gears, you might want to reconsider building this hero at all, I would say. And just for convenience, as usual, I'll put this up as well. So yeah, you can see, you know, Enchant is Breeze because Archon is like an assassin type unit, but he doesn't actually have an ignore guard skill. He ignores guard via like disrupting their guard by either pulling the tank or pulling the unit itself away. So he needs all the mobility he can get. That's why Apex Boots Breeze. I put the Full Moon there just for fun. Honestly, just use Breeze. Actually, there's only one enchant for this guy. The stuff in the second column are mostly, you know, if you really don't have on the gear on the left and you want to play it, and yeah, you can go for those. And yeah, that basically covers the gear for this unit. So I went through this unit kind of fast because, like I mentioned, it was very straightforward. And I'll go straight into like the skills demo, and I'll talk more about the unit itself there. Okay, so no, this is gonna be a pretty quick one. I'm just gonna demo his basic skill set. So yeah, well, he's an aquatic type movement unit, so you need to take note that he does get kind of fucked by any terrain that is not plains or water. But yeah, so usually, like, you either hook directly or you will tidal search to get closer before hooking. And then after you proc the displacement effect, be it from the 3C or from your other displacement skills, you will get 2 buffs, which is the mobility +2 and the tidal search buff basically. And do take note that this act again is like an actual act again. It's not like chivalry where it fixes you to 3 blocks or anything. This is a full act again with full mobility, 6 movement. So this is why it's an option to hook the tank itself. So you just hook the tank and you can go quite far behind the tank to kill whatever is behind it. And the main thing to note about this hero is that the way the game classifies displacement means that it doesn't work if you like do a melee hook like this. It doesn't count it as displacement. Your hero will just get stuck there. It doesn't count. The unit has to actually move for it to count as displacement. So that's one of the main things you have to watch out for. And now that we've got that speedrun info done out of the way, let's move on to hear me shit on this hero, basically. So the main problem with this hero is that his gimmick is entirely reliant on his displacement effect. So things that don't allow him to displace unit, and the main culprit is Hilda, just completely stops this hero. If you play this hero against a Hilda, he turns into a block of wood. He's just gonna, you know, hit into the tank. At that point, you just bring Aqua Blast or something for more damage. Because Hilda 3C has a command that prevents units within 3 blocks from being displaced. I think that's what it says. So, and it's a command, it's not even part of a passive, so you can't even passive block it with like Elwyn or something. So if you play Archon in your main box of 15, you really need to ban Hilda first, otherwise this unit just becomes useless if they pick Hilda. So as a result of that, you will probably want to pair him with units that benefit from Hilda being banned. Because if you're gonna ban Hilda, you might as well build units that perform better with Hilda being gone. So it kind of warps your box of 15 in a way that you might not play previously. Like previously I was playing an assassin box and I kind of just left the Hilda there. Now I'm playing Archon, so I have to change up my draft quite significantly. And well, it's not inherently a bad thing, but it doesn't just stop at Hilda, right? There are other things that stop displacement. And the other most notable one is literally the same unit from the the same banner, the other unit from the same banner. Literally her endurance formation from IBC. It gives up to 4 units a buff that prevents displacement. They are immune to displacement. So right here, literally on the same banner, this unit just hard counters him. And that shit lasts for 3 turns. And at 6 star has basically no downtime. So you need to ban Hilda. You need to ban IBC. If for some reason you run into a Towa, you need to ban that as well, because Towa's 3C also prevents displacement and it's an aura. Although I don't think it has 100% uptime, but close to it. So that's 3 units. And last but not least, if any of their mage or healers are using electric headgear, you're quite fucked as well, because that thing, it applies a buff to the wearer and a random unit beside them, and gives them a buff that prevents displacement as well. So they just kind of send that unit and the tank in front. It gives the buff to the tank, and then you can't hook. You can still target the people behind them, but like I mentioned in the demo just now, the displacement has to actually happen. So you can't, like, your pool has to actually move them before you can act again. And if you can't pull them away from the tank, it doesn't mean anything, right? Because his skills do not inherently ignore guard. So if you play against any of those, your Archon is quite like a dead weight, I would say. So that's the number one problem with this hero, that he just ceases to be a hero if you are playing against anti-displacement. So what else does this hero have? So the next problem he has is the fact that it is a multi-act again unit, but none of his act agains actually conserve his buffs. So Tidal Surge does not keep his buff duration, and his Talent act again also does not keep his buff duration. It only gives him water and mobility +2. So if you need Tidal Surge to reach an enemy, you're basically better off not putting Strengthen on this unit, because he's gonna burn the full Strengthen before he even hits the guy with his attack. You know, you put a Strengthen on him, it lasts 2 turns. You Tidal Surge 1 time, it's 1 turn now. You use the hook, it's gone. It's 0 turns. And then when you actually hit him with the attack, it's gone. So if you want to have an attack buff when you hit your target, you need to have a faction buff. Which brings us to the next point. His factions are dog shit. Like, Strat is just buffed by Altamula pretty much. Lanford is, not relevant at all. Altamula kind of is, but he's not exactly the strongest pick now. Because, Werner exists. There's a bunch of things that can kill him still. And he's just overall not really a fit for the meta. His mobility is too low, that sort of stuff. Yeles, you can play it with Landius, but Landius as a tank, if you get, like, let's say you play 3 tanks, you play Hilda, Christian, Landius, and if you play against a tank buster opponent, they'll probably just ban Hilda, Christian. Or even if they don't do that, if you pick Landius just to buff Yeles, Landius is kind of a squishy tank nowadays, by nowadays standards. Like, he dies to random things. He can die to even, like, Weham Annihilation, I think. And his revive is tied to his passive. so it gets fucked by passive block as well. I mean, my point is overall Landius, he's not quite up to standard with the other two proper tanks nowadays, so if you're playing him, you're probably already playing on a handicap, honestly. Sigma is the other buffer. Okay. Sigma's buff is like one of the worst buffs in the game, because it requires you to be below a certain health. And the problem with Sigma bringing the buff is, if you bring his buff, he can't bring Ignore Guard, because if you want to bring his Shadow Duel, it requires all three of these skills, so he has no space for this. So, you know, and I'm not even gonna bother about Mythical. Like, Mythical just has Hobo, but you know, Hobo and Archon in the same team sounds kind of weird. Like, Mythical just isn't quite a faction nowadays. Like, the only relevant hero I would say here is, if you're playing AoE, maybe King of Red Moon, and otherwise maybe it's Kyra, Kruger, Wet Ham. Like, AoE box, you won't play Archon in an AoE box anyway, so the point is kind of moot. So that's another problem that he has. Back to the hero. So other than that, one of his main gimmicks is that he's an aquatic unit, right? So let's say you are fighting a Rosen and you hit someone that is buffed by Rosen. You hit that unit, suddenly the Empire buff dispels your water. So it just turns you to shit, because a lot of your damage is coming from this. 40% damage increase when in water. And also, the all stats excluding HP increases by whatever percent when in water. So if you hit something that has buff dispel, which is basically Kenyo Rope and Rosen Empire buff, and if you lose water, your hero just turns to shit as well. It's probably not going to kill the unit. You can probably still kill shit like T-Jess with just raw attack power, but anything that is slightly tanky, you're gonna fail if you get your water dispelled. So this one's kind of a minor issue, but it's something you do want to take note of when you're drafting. And other than that, the last problem is that if you are a budget player or your Aniki training is not quite up to par yet, these are not troops that you will generally be investing in. Like, there are much better units to be investing in. Like, unless you're for some reason playing a multiple aquatic team and you actually have Lizardman build. Otherwise, you're not gonna have these troops, and you're probably better off not spending on these troops. So, you know, this is a very high investment hero for not a lot of return. Like, he's probably decent in the backup box, but you know, I think as a main box unit, it's generally just gonna be like flavor of the month, or you know, some people just like playing the hero and they'll keep playing it. Otherwise, I think he's at most a backup box unit. And you know, if you either don't have the gear to build him, or you're not even close to being able to afford these troops for him, well, probably not a good idea to use this hero. I shit on this hero a lot, but you know, at the end of the day, I am actually having fun with it. So, you know, take it with a grain of salt, I guess. And with that, I'll just put an end to this video. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.